Today's lesson will be how to fill a body CAD with pattern. So we reviewed this before we took our 2-week hiatus from school, but I'm going to just do a video tutorial to refresh everybody's memory. So first thing I want to tell you is that we're going to work with CADs 1 through 5 in the weekly assignments that you were graded on at the beginning of the semester. Those are the CADs you're going to work with for this for the midterm project. And you can see I have attached an example of a finished midterm, what it's going to look like. You're not going to have swatches on the outside of the artboards like I do. I just have them there for tonight's lesson. But your finished midterm is going to look like this with your pattern CADs at the top and your body CADs filled with each pattern below it. So every body CAD should be filled with a pattern that attaches to what's above. They all have the same color chips, because they all have the same pattern, same color chip, same color name, same heading for each collection, same colorway, colorway 1, colorway 2, above each body CAD. Everything you can copy from up here in your pattern CAD pattern board and just transfer it down here below your body CADs that are filled with the same pattern and colorway. So you'll just do a copy paste to do that. I added 3 additional artboards below each pattern board, and there was a lesson on how to do that by using this artboard tool here. And then once you add those artboards, what I would like you to do is just click on the artboard, hold shift, and you can select one or more artboards at the same time, and you go to window align. And we're just going to make sure our artboards are aligned to the side. You can click on one artboard, hold shift, click on the other. Again, align them up to the side, because anytime you use the artboard tool to add new artboards, you want to make sure your artboards are aligned to the side and then also aligned, click and hold shift and align to the top, these 3 artboards that I just added. So that again, everything is nice and flush. I already had aligned these 3 artboards to the top when I first created the pattern boards, but these 3 new ones down here are brand new, so I wanted to make sure that they are aligned to the side next to the pattern CAD, and then these 3 are aligned to the top, so they're all nice and flush against each other. So to fill body CAD with pattern, just going to start with some of these black and white drawings here. I'm actually going to add just an artboard just to work with down here. Click on the artboard tool, click and drag a box, preset, hit letter size. We want all of our artboards to be 8.5 by 11, which is a letter size page, orientation horizontal, hit OK. And that'll give us an instant letter size artboard to match the rest of the artboard in our collection. So if I have my pattern here, so I chose on this one, I'm going to do a couple body CADs, but this one I wanted to do because it has rib trim on it at the neck. And this was CAD number 1, short sleeve crew neck t-shirt. So you would do the same lesson if you were choosing to use the zip hoodie CAD, which was CAD number 2, because that also has rib trim. It would be the same lesson. Anything that has rib trim on it, you would CAD it in this way. So depending on what body CAD you use, as long as they have rib trim, it'll be the same. So first thing I want to show you is you're going to take your actual pattern fabric swatch and you're going to click on both colorways holding shift. Click on them with the black arrows. Black arrow, click and hold shift, grab both of them, copy and paste them, and you can bring them down here into the lower artboard where you're getting ready to fill your body CAD with. And then I showed you 2 tools. You can either scale them smaller with the black arrow, or you can use the scale tool. If you remember, I mentioned that the fabric swatches up here are at 100% scale, which means that they fit a human being, life-size person, where these CADs are a lot smaller in size. So we need to scale these patterns dramatically smaller, roughly about 25%, maybe less smaller than what our 100% fabric swatch has. So you have to do that step first before you fill any body CADs with pattern. So you copy and paste your pattern CADs. You can take the black arrow to hold shift and scale them down. You want to hold shift so that your pattern scales proportionally down, or just going to undo for a second, you can use the scale tool. The only thing about the scale tool, I'm on it right here, is you you're actually going to hold shift, but you pull from the corner. It's really important that you pull from the corner. Let me show you what happens when I use the scale tool and I pull from the side. It just, sometimes things get distorted. So you want to pull from the corner. Here's the scale tool right here, and I'm little crosshairs right there. I'm just going to pull inward and be slow about it, because sometimes it'll get a little funky and it'll start moving around too much if you do it too hastily. So basically what I'm attempting to do is have a pattern scale that is about 25% smaller, and I can even bring these up so you can see, than the pattern fabric swatch that we have, that which is our 100% scale. So in a body CAD this small, this is not a human being size body CAD, it's dramatically small. So we want to make sure that that stripe repeats on the body CAD, on the smaller size body CAD properly. So we have to reduce the scale of it dramatically first. So there's my small scale. Windows swatches, let's have that open. Windows swatches, let's have that open. Let's also have our Windows stroke box open. Okay. So the first thing I wanted to show you is a really important that you fill your body CADs in this way. At the end of when we finish doing these body CADs in black and white, I had you do an object group of them, and that's fine. You can see that everything, once I click on it with the black arrow, everything is selected. Totally fine. We do not need to ungroup our body CADs in order to fill them a pattern. But you cannot use the black arrow to fill your body CADs with pattern. It's really important that you use the white arrow to do this. So click on the white arrow and click on the actual body shape. So remember, we have loose pieces like top stitching, armhole seams, rib. Those are all those loose pieces I always call in class. They're things that just sit on top of an existing joined body shape. I want to click only on the body shape itself, and hopefully all your points are joined as we originally drew it, because I want to make sure that that's the part that I fill with pattern, not the armhole seam, not the top stitching. It's the body inside that fills with pattern. So once you have your smaller scale swatches next to you, you can actually make sure your fill box is on top. Really important to make sure your fill box is on top. You can take the eyedropper tool and actually just click on your actual fabric swatch, your small scale fabric swatch there. Just know that that fabric swatch does not have a black stroke outline on it, so you're going to have to click on your stroke box, and then you can go to window color if it's not already open. This is my window color box right here, and I can make sure my stroke box is on top, and I can click a black color chip there to make sure that my body CAD still has a black stroke outline around it. So I left this mistake on this CAD because I wanted to show that a lot of my students may have these problems arise when they start to fill their body CADs with pattern. So I wanted to show you how we're going to fix that. If you start to see that your loose pieces, such as armhole seams or top stitching, show up with little white fill colors in them, if I click on these armhole seams with the white arrow, you can see that they actually have a white fill in my fill box. All these loose pieces, when we were drawing them, I mentioned that they should always be drawn with a no fill in the fill box and only a stroke color. So if you start to see when you fill your body CADs with pattern that these white fill colors start to show up, just click on them with the white arrow wherever you see a white fill that you know you didn't fill with white yourself. Click on them with the white arrow and then check your fill box and your stroke box, and you'll see that they probably have a white fill color in them, and they shouldn't. So you need to click on no fill and then click on the other one again that has the white fill and no fill. And you can even see here, I can notice as well, when I zoom in on my top stitching, I can see automatically that there's white lines in between my dash line. If I click on any one of those top stitchings with the white arrow, I can also find that this has a white fill in it, and that's why I'm getting these little white interruptions in between my dash lines. So you got to get rid of those as well. So zoom in on those areas and see if that's happening as well. When we were working in black and white, you didn't get to notice that as well, but now that you're going to start filling with body CADs of pattern and color, you will start to notice these things about your CAD that may be wrong instantly. So the way to fix them is just click on them with the white arrow. You can hold shift to select more than one thing, and then just hit the no fill. Make sure your fill box is on top, hit the no fill button. And then I can go over here, hold shift, click on each one with the white arrow. I could make sure my fill box is on top. If it has a white fill, change it to a no fill. And then I'm just going to assume my bottom hem stitching has it as well. So I can hold shift, click on one, hold shift, click on the other. Again, I'm using white arrow only, really important. We are not touching the black arrow right now for this exercise. And then one thing I wanted to mention as well is that if you notice that this interior neck, I explained in class that this is actually the back view of the shirt coming through the front. So you actually see it a little bit right here. It is the back rib collar, and this is the interior view of the neck. If you see that that's white as well, that actually should be filled with pattern. So what I would like you to do to fix that, if you have that problem, is to again use the white arrow, click on your body shape. You should see a bunch of white filled points, and you can move the white filled point in the center. You can move the curve handles. Basically what I want to do is just tuck it underneath the back collar, back rib collar. You don't see it happening right now, but you will in a second. Is if I ungroup the body drawing for a second, I can actually send the body shape behind this back rib collar. So I'm going to click on the black arrow now to select the whole entire drawing that is grouped, and I'm going to do an ungroup. And I might need to do another ungroup depending. Basically what I want to do is be able to just pull off the body shape only. So if you need to do an object ungroup more than once to do that, you can, until you're able to just select the body shape away from all those loose pieces. That's where I want to ungroup to that point. And once I have that, I want to click on the body shape, and you can use the black arrow or white arrow to do this. And then do an object, arrange, send to back. And now you can see I sent it behind the back rib collar. And there's still a problem in here that I need to fix, but at least the interior neck is now filled with stripe. So right here is also where I will notice that in order for me to be able to hide this stripe behind the rib collar, I actually need to click on my rib collar shape with the white arrow. And you can see I'm clicking on the shape. I don't click inside, I click on the actual collar shape, the outline around it. And you can see that I don't have a fill color inside of my collar shape. This is where I actually need one, because that'll cover up that stripe that I hid underneath. So you can click, make sure your fill box is on top, and there's also a little white color chip available for you down here. You can click on that, and now all of a sudden my back collar is filled with white, and now that stripe that I hid behind the collar is gone. Well, it's not gone, it's still there, but you can't see it because I have this collar shape filled with white, and I sent this body shape that's now filled with pattern, object arrange, sent to back. So now I have two collars filled with white, and you may or may not want white to match. If my stripe doesn't have, or my pattern doesn't have any white in it, you may not want that for your collar color. You might want to match back to a color that goes back to your pattern. And in order to do that, all you would have to do is just copy and paste your color chips that you're going to need anyway down at the bottom of the board like I have above here. Just do a Command-C, Command-V to copy and paste them. And now you can use them to eyedrop and fill in your collar color. Just remember that our body CADs need to maintain a black stroke outline around every detail, including the collar shape. So if you remember, I asked you to do your color chips without a black stroke outline, because that's actually what the color chips would look like in real life. But for this lesson, I want you to make a copy of whatever color you choose to use in your collar. I'm going to choose to use this purple color. I'm going to copy and paste it. And I'm going to keep that nice layout down here for my board, the blue color. But this chip that I copied and pasted, I'm actually going to add a black stroke outline on it, because what I'm planning to do is eyedrop onto this color chip to change my rib collar into that color. And if I eyedrop it, I'm going to lose my black stroke outline because this color chip does not have one. So I'm going to make sure that I add a black stroke outline under window color around my color chip. Now this color chip here, and again, I'm going to delete this when I'm done filling in my collar color. But now it has a black stroke outline around it, so when I use the eyedropper tool, I won't lose my black stroke outline around my collar shape. So I'm going to click on the collar shape, with the white arrow. And again, try not to click on this. That center line in here that divides up the rib, that's your rib stroke line. You want to click on the actual collar shape that you drew with all the points on it. Click on it with the white arrow, again, white arrow only. And then make sure your fill box is on top. Then take the eyedropper tool, click on my color chip that now has a fill color with a black stroke outline, and you will see that I filled it with blue. But again, I left this problem here so that if in case you run into this at home, you can troubleshoot. So if your collar fills with only half of the blue color like mine is, and you still see that white fill color, the reason why is if you click now on that stroke outline that makes up your rib, remember it's right center, directly centered, as a blue stroke outline goes right down the center of your rib. If you click on that, and literally you would be able to see it very easily where you take your white arrow cursor, is you line it up right here where the blue meets the white, and you will be able to find that stroke line very easily. You will see right here that the reason why I have a half white, half blue filled collar shape is because when I click on that line, which this is the stroke line that makes up the rib, there's actually a fill color in it. There's a white fill color in that stroke line. So all I have to do to get rid of that is just click on a no fill. And again, now you can see my whole entire collar shape changes. The only problem is because that rib line had a white fill in it. So take the back collar, click on it with the white arrow. And again, you can take the eyedropper tool, and here's my chip with the black stroke outline around it. Click on that, and now my collar shape is now filled with the blue color chip to match back to the pattern colorway that I had in the body. So now I can delete that chip. I don't need it anymore. This is my colorway number 1 already done. And I can delete off the small scale versions of those patterns once I'm done with them. I don't need them for this project. I only need them to fill my body CADs, and then I can delete them. So the same thing here is you would then take your white arrow, click on your body shape, and then all you have to do is eyedrop on the new color. You're going to add a black stroke outline, because if you notice it disappeared because this fabric swatch does not have a black stroke outline. If you felt like you wanted to add a black stroke outline to this fabric swatch first before you eyedrop onto the body CAD, you can do that as well. Or you can fill the body CAD first and just know that you have to add a black stroke outline to your stroke box after. Either way works. And I already fixed those issues with the armhole and the stitching. They no longer have white on them anymore, so I don't have to go back and fix that anymore. They're good to go. Now all I need to do is copy my color chips from my pattern board above, copy and paste them, bring them down below my body CAD, and now I can choose to use one of them to actually fill my rib collar in with a color that goes back to my pattern. So I'm going to choose to do the green. I'm going to copy and paste that color chip because this is the one I'm going to use to fill my collar color on colorway number 2. And I'm going to prep it because I know when I eyedrop on it, it doesn't have a black stroke outline. I'm going to need one. So I'm going to make sure my stroke box is on top. Window color has my little black chip available for me. If I click on that, now I have a green filled color chip with a black stroke outline. And I fixed that issue that we had a minute ago inside my collar shape where it had half filled with color, half filled with white. So that's already fixed. So now I can easily just click on, with the white arrow, click on the collar shape itself. And I want to make sure the fill box is on top before I use the eyedropper tool and eyedrop on top of that color. And you can release, click on the back collar shape. Again, the shape itself, not the rib line in between. And then make sure your fill box is on top, take the eyedropper and eyedrop onto that new color. So that's how you would fill, and then you can delete these chips off. And then all you're gonna have to do then is just copy and paste your heading, bring it down above your colorway CADs like this, and just make sure your chips are lined up underneath the colorway that they're associated with. And just your chips, just make sure they're all aligned to each other so I can highlight them with the black arrow, go back to window align, make sure the chips are aligned, and then also make sure your text is aligned. You want to make sure things are visually lined up. Okay, so that's an example of how to fill a body CAD pattern. And you can remember that if you choose to use any one of these body CADs that we worked on in the earlier part of the semester, just remember if you use the zip hoodie, it has rib as well. So that's going to be filled a separate solid color. Then your body will be filled with pattern. Your rib will be filled with solid, just like we did on the crew neck collar of the t-shirt. Your draw cords are also a shape that will need to be filled with solid color. In addition to the actual zipper tape that's in the middle, that's actually a long skinny rectangle shape that will also need to be filled with a solid color. And just remember, if you click on any stitching and you start to see white filled lines in between it, it might have a white filled box inside of your fill box. This body CAD's pretty simple because there's really no rib or anything that's going to interrupt the pattern in any way. What I will tell you, if you choose to use this body CAD, leave the rivets, these little circles that we did, they're called rivets, leave them as the gradient tool, which is that light gray. Leave that, and you can also leave the button as white. But fill in your belt loops with pattern and fill in your waistband and all your body shape in with pattern for that one. And then for, this body CAD here, if you chose to use the gathered skirt, this is actually probably one of the simpler ones to do because it's just made up of 2 body shapes, 1 waistband and 1 body of the skirt. And if you click on, what I will tell you, if you click on this and you fill it with pattern, I have a small scale version here. If you fill it with pattern and you lose some of your fabric motion lines, I just want to show you really quickly how you'll get them back. So you're going to click on the body shape with the white arrow, and again, fill box on top, take the eyedropper tool, click on it, and then bring back that black stroke outline that we lost because your fabric swatch doesn't have it. And then you can choose to use a solid waistband or a pattern waistband. I'm just going to do the pattern for right now. But what if something happens like this where you start to notice that some of your fabric motion lines are disappearing? I'm just going to do a quick trick to show you that. Let's bring this to front. Okay. If something like that happens where you had fabric motion lines at the top waistband and you had some going through the body of skirt, you had a single needle stitching at the bottom of the skirt as well, and you fill in with pattern and all of them disappear. Just remember, they're not gone. They're just hiding behind the actual body shape. So all you would have to do if that happens at home is you click on the body shape with the white arrow, and then you're just going to do an object arrange, send to back. And here you can see all my fabric motion lines reappeared, my stitching reappeared. It was always there. It was just hiding behind the pattern-filled body shape. So if those things start to happen to you and you start to notice that certain details disappear, like stitching, after you fill your body CAD with pattern, then all you have to do is just click on the body shape and just object arrange, send to back, and hopefully all those details will reemerge. One other thing I wanted to mention is if this does not work, this lesson of taking your body pattern, your fabric swatches, copy and pasting them, and scaling them directly from the fabric swatch using the black arrow or the rescale tool. If you notice that they do not scale right, they don't scale, basically what you want them to look like is the 100% version just at a dramatically smaller scale. You should still see your pattern repeating, but in a dramatically smaller scale. If that does not work for you and somehow it gets distorted and it doesn't look right, I can't predict that. Sometimes that may happen. So if that happens to you, the other way that you can actually scale your patterns is actually extract them from the Windows swatch box. So every pattern that you have in this midterm is saved in your Windows swatch box. So it's just another way you can actually, if you click on any fabric swatch using the black arrow, like I clicked on this plaid colorway 1 right here, it will show me right here in my Windows swatch box where it's located. So I can actually pull it out of Windows swatches and it'll show me just a tiny little repeat of it. Let me bring this down into the white artboard so you can see it better. It will pull out what looks like maybe an origin of a plaid pattern, maybe the origin is repeated more than once. Like this is actually my origin right here, this little part right here. It shows it's starting to repeat again. So I would just object ungroup it and delete off that part I don't need. And you can scale this little origin 25% smaller. I mean, yeah, smaller to a 25% small scale. And then you can bring this small scale and drag it back into window swatches, and now you'll have a smaller scale version to fill your body CADs with. That is only if, I just showed you an alternative, if the lesson of copying and pasting your original 100% scale swatches does not scale properly for you when you do it using the black arrow or the scale tool. If it does not scale properly for you, and I can't predict that may or may not happen when you're at home, I'm just showing you an alternative way that you can actually get another scaled version of these patterns by extracting them from the Windows swatch box and just actually scaling them down really small here, again using black arrow or the rescale tool, but again holding shift. And then the only thing you would have to do secondary is you'd have to bring it back into window swatches, and now I have a smaller scale version of that plaid. The rest of the lesson is still the same. I'm still using the white arrow to click on my body shapes, and I'm still going to fill them with pattern. Instead of eyedropping on them, if you chose to do this way through window swatches, you would actually just click on the actual swatch pattern inside the smaller scale swatch pattern inside window swatches, and that's how you would do it instead of using the eyedropper tool. I do hope that when you're at home that the first way I showed you how to scale your patterns works for you, because that is honestly the easiest way to do it, by copying, pasting, and scaling them and then using the eyedropper tool. It is a lot quicker, a lot more efficient, but I just wanted to show you a secondary option through window swatches in case you run into issues at home. I'm going to attach a finished example of what the midterm is going to look like. It's basically these 6 boards right here to our Canvas modules, so you will have a visual example of that. But just note that the finished product is going to be this, and there's not going to be any extra swatches or CADs around the gray area of your artboard like I have. So just please ignore that. That was only for today's lesson.